Your phone's battery percentage is lying to you right now. And I'm not being dramatic. It's literally not showing you the real charge level. So stick around because once you understand why, you'll never look at that battery icon the same way again. Let's start with something super relatable. You're at like 15% battery, right? You're probably thinking you've got maybe 10, 15 minutes before your phone dies. But then you enable low power mode, and suddenly you get another hour of usage. How is that possible if your phone was really at 15%? The answer is that your phone is doing some serious math behind the scenes, and it's not always being honest about what it finds. Here's the thing about lithium-ion batteries, and this is what's inside basically every phone, every laptop, every modern device you own. They don't actually have a reliable way to measure how much charge is left. I know that sounds wild, but it's true. These batteries don't have a fuel gauge like your car has. There's no little sensor inside saying, "Yep, we've got exactly 47% remaining." What your phone actually does is estimate. It's making an educated guess based on voltage, temperature, age, and usage patterns. And sometimes that guess is pretty far off. So let's break down how your phone actually measures battery. The primary method is called Coulomb counting, which sounds fancy, but basically means your phone is trying to track every tiny bit of electrical charge flowing in and out of the battery. It measures the current and multiplies it by time to figure out how much energy has been used. In theory, this works. In practice, it's messy. The first problem is that lithium-ion batteries don't discharge in a straight line. The voltage doesn't drop evenly as you use the battery. You might be at 80% charge, but the voltage curve at 80% looks totally different from the voltage curve at 80% on a different day. Temperature affects this. Age affects this. The weather affects this. How fast you're draining the battery affects this. It's chaos. Your phone also factors in the battery's internal resistance, which increases as the battery gets older. An older battery has more resistance, which means it can't deliver power as efficiently. So your phone has to guess about that too. And when the battery gets old enough, your phone literally can't tell if it's dying because the charge is low or because the battery is just worn out and can't push power anymore. That's why older iPhones started throttling themselves. Apple was trying to prevent random shutdowns because the battery estimation was becoming unreliable. Here's where it gets really interesting. Your phone isn't just measuring battery percentage for you. It's also using different calculations for different purposes. The battery percentage you see on the lock screen, that's one calculation. The percentage the system uses internally to decide when to trigger low power mode, that might be slightly different. The percentage that decides when to shut down the phone completely, that's a third calculation. These are all based on slightly different assumptions, which is why you get these weird situations where your phone says it's at 1%, but it stays on for another 5 minutes. Apple is actually pretty transparent about this. Their battery health system tries to account for this by giving you a maximum capacity percentage. So your phone might tell you the battery is at 85% health. What that means is the battery can only hold 85% of the charge it could when it was brand new. But that doesn't mean when your phone says it's at 50%, it's actually at 50% of 85% of the original capacity. The math is more complicated than that. Android phones handle this differently depending on the manufacturer, but the core problem is the same. Samsung, Google, OnePlus, they're all making educated guesses about battery percentage. Some are more accurate than others, but none of them are actually measuring a true percentage of remaining charge. There's also something called the battery's discharge curve, and this is crucial to understanding why your phone seems to jump from 20% to dead instantly sometimes. Lithium-ion batteries don't discharge at a constant rate. In the middle ranges, the voltage stays relatively stable. But when you get down to really low percentages, like below 10%, the voltage drops off a cliff. Your phone sees that cliff happening and thinks the battery is about to die, so it starts being really conservative with its estimates. That's why the last 10% of your battery seems to drain way faster than the first 10%. Now here's the practical stuff you should actually care about. First, those battery percentage warnings your phone gives you, they're based on these estimates, so they're not always accurate. Your phone might warn you about low battery when there's actually more juice left than you think. Second, frequently letting your battery drain all the way to zero is actually bad for it. Lithium-ion batteries prefer to be kept between 20 and 80% charge. When you drain them completely, you're stressing the chemistry. Third, keeping your phone plugged in at 100% all the time is also not great. Again, lithium-ion batteries like to stay in that sweet spot in the middle. This is why fast charging is a bit of a double-edged sword. It's convenient, but all that extra power flowing through the battery generates heat, and heat degrades lithium-ion batteries. Phone manufacturers have to balance between giving you the convenience of fast charging and keeping your battery healthy long-term. The battery percentage you see is also affected by something called battery management system firmware. Your phone's operating system is constantly running algorithms in the background, tracking usage patterns, temperature, voltage curves, and it's using all that data to make better guesses about what percentage to show you. iOS and Android have gotten pretty sophisticated about this over the years, but it's still fundamentally a guess. So why doesn't your phone just tell you the truth? Why not show you the actual voltage or the actual coulomb count? Honestly, because that would confuse most people. Voltage doesn't mean anything to the average user. And the coulomb count is less reliable than the percentage estimate anyway, because of all the factors I mentioned. So your phone is basically doing the best it can and rounding the answer to something that makes sense to humans. The really wild part is that as phones get older and batteries degrade, the estimates get worse. Your phone can't actually tell if it's shutting down because the battery is truly empty or because the battery is old and can't deliver power anymore. That's a fundamental limitation of how lithium-ion batteries work. There's no magic sensor that can fix this until battery technology changes, and we're working on solid-state batteries that might be better. Phones are going to keep making these educated guesses. So the next time your phone tells you it's at 15% and you think you're about to lose power, remember that your phone is basically estimating. It might be right, it might be off by a few percentage points, and if your battery is old, it could be off by way more than that. The battery percentage is useful as a rough guide, but it's not a precise measurement. It's your phone's best guess based on incomplete information. If you found this interesting and want to understand more about how the technology in your pocket actually works, please hit that subscribe button. We break down this kind of stuff all the time on this channel, the real explanations behind the tech you use every day. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.